It's time to talk Gonzaga basketball.
Get ready.
It's the Spokesman-Review Zags Insiders Podcast.
Here we go.
Here's Jim Meehan and Richard Fox.
Good Monday morning. Welcome back to the Zags Basketball Insiders Podcast. Jim Meehan from the Spokesman-Review. Richard Fox, television analyst on Gonzaga broadcasts with SWX, KHQ. Foxy, a big week for the Zags on the road last week, 2-0, and moved up to claim that second seed in the WCC tournament. It was all on the line Saturday against USF. Winner takes second seed. Zags got it done there, got it done in Santa Clara on Tuesday. So a 2-0 week keeps them at number 8 in the net. Looked up several brackets. They're still mostly on the 9 line, occasionally on the 8 line. I saw St. Mary's as high as a 5, but they're more in the 5 to 7 range. And that 2-0 week, quad one, both games, puts Gonzaga, I think, 3-6 overall. They lost a quad one win, not by any of their own doing, but Baylor dropped out of the top 30. They're at 32. So if they move back in the top 30, that would also qualify. But regardless, Gonzaga got it done. I think they more or less kind of clinched an at-large berth. Not clinched, we don't know. It's the NCAA selection committee's job, not all these bracket projections we look at. But I think that week probably puts them in a solid position if it comes down to an at-large. I think now their job is trying to get off that 8 or 9 line if they can win the WCC tournament and maybe move into that 7 range, even a 6 if things broke right. I think that'd be a way better draw in terms of trying to make a little bit of a run, get to that Sweet 16 for the 10th straight year. Do you kind of feel the same, that they kind of shored up their credentials there a little bit and maybe don't have to sweat it as much?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, Jim. Certainly, the heartburn I had last week was worse. I'm not sure I have any heartburn right now, but look, that's a really impressive week. Santa Clara obviously beat Gonzaga up here. In San Francisco, you and I are believers. They certainly, they don't have to pitch a perfect game to beat Gonzaga, but they have to get pretty close, and they just have not been able to do that. Yeah. So we both felt like those are 2 games Gonzaga was going to have to play well to win, and they found a way to do both and to win both. And they're both quad one wins on the road. I know the game was at the Chase Center, but certainly down in more friendly country for USF. And yeah, I thought it was a very impressive, a really good response too, Jim. When you think about the disappointment that group must have felt after losing on senior night to St. Mary's, and not a very quick turnaround. They played Tuesday, was it not?
Tuesday.
Yeah, down at Santa Clara. You played Saturday. I thought that was a very, very good response, and I think very much indicative of the group that they have. I mean, it had been pretty easy to be flat, to feel sorry for yourself with, call it 48 hours turnaround. They were ready to play. So I came away from the week very impressed.
Well, let's talk about that week. Santa Clara was first up. Santa Clara had scored 103 on Gonzaga in the first meeting and won. The rematch, I felt like it almost started out to where they left off up in Spokane. They're hitting threes all over the place. I think they go 8 for 8 out of the gate from distance. They hit 2 right before the shot clock buzzer that I recall. I think a couple more pretty heavily contested, and then a few more uncontested, just breakdowns. And I think I looked up, it was Santa Clara had 32 points in just over maybe 10, 11 minutes. That's a pretty high pace. That might break the 103 pace they were on in Spokane. So, but from then, Graham Ike and Braden Huff wisely got into foul trouble. So, so Ismaila, I got to figure out how to say his last name.
Gianni, isn't it?
Diani, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding about Graham and Braden, of course. But when they went to the bench, Deani came in and I thought just kind of changed the defensive game plan almost. The way they guarded. He scored it pretty good. He got a couple of dunks and hustled, got rebounds, had a steal, a couple of blocks, but he detoured shots. He made it tougher for him to finish inside. He was able to kind of in drop coverage stay with his guy and handle the driver for a while, and the guards and the perimeters could stay closer, tighter to the three ball shooters, and that kind of shut that down. From there, I think Santa Clara missed 10 straight threes. They finished with 76 points, which looked like they were on course for 100 pretty easily at one point. The kid turned that game around, and kind of the best part of it is we hadn't seen it. He hadn't played the meaningful minutes, and he looked completely at home, not forced, rushed, out of place. Just a kind of a remarkable performance. Played, I think, more minutes in that game than he had all during the WCC season. But what'd you see out of the big kid? Just turned 18. What'd you see out of him?
Well, I had flashbacks to Foster back in the WCC tournament in Portland, if you remember. That's Heidfeld's year. Stephen Gray was on that team, and Foster hadn't played a ton that year.
Yeah.
And they had foul trouble. I was doing games on the radio at the time, and I was kind of just like, let's see if he can have an impact. And just his size and length and his energy really had a material impact in that particular game. And I had flashbacks to that. I think Deani's got certainly more long-term potential. And you see the benefit of true size. I mean, Graham is certainly stout. I mean, he's all of 6'9", and he plays big. He's physical. But there's something about a true 7-footer in the length that they bring. And he's a good athlete, got light feet, plays hard. And I think he only had one block, but he certainly impacted several other attempts at the rim. And certainly playing with Ryan's a perfect point guard for a guy like that. I mean, just throw it at the rim. He's got the ability to go finish. We don't see a lot of lobs coming from Nemmer. Doesn't get a lot of those just because it's not Gonzaga's personnel. You kind of got a glimpse of him at the next level, I think, of just playing with guys who can get up above the rim easily. So, I try to temper everyone around me, my office and friends and all that. Like, oh my God, they figured it out. Like, said, look, that's his 8th game of the year. He just turned 18. I'm not sure he is going to be. I'm not sure all of a sudden now we're favorites for the national championship. But what you saw the future of the program inside. He's the impact with his size, his length. He plays physical. He's not afraid of contact. That's always something I look for with bigs, particularly young bigs, is you have to like contact. And more importantly, you have to initiate contact. The best players inside are initiating contact, and Graham does an excellent job of that. If you watch him play, he's constantly trying to find a body, lean into that body, hit that body, and I think Deani appears to have that kind of instinct to him. He's got good touch, good feel. I think he's a guy in the right matchup in the tournament where you might look to play him. It might just be 4 or 5 minutes, but if he's having an impact, it might be 12 or 14.
Sure.
Particularly against some of these high major programs that have true size and depth inside. He just offers them a different look, particularly if he plays, I think, with Greg and Ajayi, who at least in theory can stretch the floor a little bit. Yeah. And can guard out on the perimeter better than, say, Huff or Graham. But you want to be careful with that. You don't want to go to that well trying to find something at the detriment of Graham's minutes or Braden's minutes. But I think he's earned the look, at least on a nightly basis, I would think. What can he do for us? So it was a lot of fun to see that, and he certainly changed the complexion of that game. And I think really in his own way kind of took the fight out of Santa Clara. They just never got comfortable attacking the basket. But it was a really good I was with you. I was thinking to myself, they're not going to do this again, are they, Santa Clara? I mean, 8 of 8, and they hit some tough ones. Um, but in 3 of 17, the rest of the way, I mean,
Yeah.
it shut off for them. Gonzaga was +4 on the glass. We talked about this last week. The inconsistency at times Gonzaga has against these upper level teams on the glass. They won that battle. It wasn't a good shooting night for Gonzaga, just 27% from three. 4 of 12 in the second half. But I thought they were just more active defensively, Jim.
Mhm.
They forced 17 turnovers. 11 of those were steals. 25 points for GU off of those turnovers.
Oh yeah.
So just their ability to convert those quickly, get down in transition. And then the big guys, I just thought were really good. Almost 60% of the points came inside, and Nemhard obviously fabulous. We can talk about him for an entire podcast if we chose to. But Ike, so once again, just 20 minutes, 24 points, 11 of 13. It's remarkable his efficiency level. I'm not sure we talk about that enough. And
Yeah.
up and down the roster, I thought it was a good performance, Jim. I don't want to belabor it, but I have a lot of respect for Santa Clara. I think they've got a lot of skilled players.
Yeah.
And I thought Gonzaga had played a big part in slowing them down.
You mentioned Ryan Nemhard got his second WCC Player of the Week award this week. 15 assists against Santa Clara, and breaking news, just got a text from Barrett Henderson, SID at Gonzaga. They did find a missing assist in the USF game. And we kind of were monitoring the stats, and then he threw the one to Ike for the three near the end, the last few minutes.
Yeah.
We all thought that was the 16th, but the stats never updated. So I don't know if they found it there or earlier. Credited with 16. Ties Blake Stepp's school record a day later. Loses some of the fanfare and some of the impact, but still did it. And he's been chasing that all year. He isn't chasing it, but he's gotten close a couple of times. He had 15 against Santa Clara twice, and now has shared that school record. They should just erase that page with assists and put him at the top of everything. WCC's, Gonzaga's, he's just rewriting the whole deal. So congratulations to him. You mentioned the offense just got rolling, and it was widespread contributions. I think I looked it up, 31 of 42 on 2-point shots. That's almost 74%. And this is against a team with some athleticism, some size, some depth. Just took that game over. I think, and we mentioned Diani. He's part of the issue this season, and you have to understand he wasn't counted on to be a huge impact guy, right away when you've got Huff and Graham, obviously, and Ben Gregg.
Well, he's so young too.
Yeah, and he's so young. Those minutes are going to be gobbled up. But he had the knee injury, you'll recall. I think he missed close to 2 months. Might have been an MCL if I remember. Then he got sick and missed a game or two, and then he got a concussion and was sidelined again. So this has been kind of an uneven time for him. But everybody, including Mark Few, Nemhard, Ike, all kind of raved about, when he's been practicing, you can see development, you can see improvement. But his attitude, he's not down on things. He's not, woe is me, I've been hurt and all this, and I can't get on the floor. And I think you could see that. He plays with some joy out there and some energy and some fight. I mean, I saw him going to the floor for loose balls. And he did get some run against against USF, did a very nice job defensively. That's going to be his biggest impact right now. I think he's going to develop and do the things you want to see offensively. But, man, he's long. He's built. He looks like a 25, 27-year-old man. He's got to be 235 at least. So he's got some strength. He's got some length. He's got some agility. You said, down the road with him, and I think you're seeing that too with Emmanuel Innocenti. I think you're seeing why they got him. Maybe this is a year early than them making massive impacts when the roster loses some guys, but you can see he's going to be a guy. you know what Dusty can do. He's a good player. Braden Huff's a very good player. So you can see kind of the newer guys down the road where they fit in, and that goes for Braden Smith too, the kid from Colgate that's redshirting. Hear a lot of good things about him. Highly competitive, doesn't take any practices off, challenges Nemhard, all those things. So you can see there's some the cupboard still got some guys, even when they lose this big senior class. Let's move on to San Francisco. Interesting game plan. One we've seen before. They tried it in the WCC tournament, I think, a year ago, and Benny Gregg, they kind of lay off him, crowd the paint, try to take away that inside production that Gonzaga seems to get them with most of the time when they play each other. I tried it again. Benny came out, missed two. I think his 2 threes, missed a third one that did everything but go down. And I kind of thought to myself, I might have even wrote it in my play-by-play, either that one just breaks you mentally, like, what do I got to do to get one? Or, dang it, I know I'm right there. The next one's going to fall. And sure enough, he started hitting them. He hit one late in the half and then a great second half. But I thought he was really smart. He got inside. He got the floaters. He got fouled. He got on the scoreboard. And I think just seeing it go through really helped him. But we know Kyle Bankhead has done Gonzaga scouts for the last couple of years with USF. Very, very good at that. He knows how to break down games and put it together. So they tried this maneuver, worked for a little bit, but even when Benny wasn't hitting, the other guys were. And when he started hitting, the floodgates just broke wide open, and not much of a counterpunch from the Dons after that. There wasn't, and frankly, their personnel doesn't match up well inside with what Gonzaga has. That's always been the issue. But what do you see in the Zags' approach to that, kind of that clogging the paint up, and then the lack of a counterpunch? Were you expecting some change, zone, something to try to at least slow them down?
Well, I think it was UMass Lowell in a non-conference that did something pretty similar, where they really played off of Greg and Ajayi. I think that's the game. I recall whatever game it was we called. I'm pretty confident it was UMass Lowell, and it was jarring. Just the inability, And I think, look, the USS is a good basketball team. They certainly have the ability, if everything's clicking at a high level, to knock off Gonzaga, or certainly they've already done that against St. Mary's once. But the room for error is so small that if any part of that game plan doesn't go their way, they're going to have a tough time. And they need Beasley, Thomas, and Williams to all play well on the same night. And obviously Beasley twisted his ankle. Thomas, I think he ended up.
I think he got 13.
4 of 18, though, right? I mean, just really inefficient. And you're right. The matchup inside is just not favorable with Wang and Lingard. I like the profile of both, but they just don't make enough shots from the perimeter where Gonzaga can reasonably and comfortably, play off of those guys. So, the one thing I would say is, everybody in every game, Gonzaga does this as well. You game plan for yourself, but you're also looking at the opponent and saying, what can we take away, or what is something we don't want to, we're going to let them have. And that happens all the time. And I think it was evident for the world to see, because they were playing off of Ben the way that they were. But that happens every night in a game, regardless of level, really. And it just didn't work. And I think you made a really good point about Ben not settling. Could have easily just kept firing him. I thought he found other ways to score. It's the best he's looked moving to me in a while. The game plan certainly on paper made sense. He was 0 of 9, rather 0 of 10 the previous 9 games. He'd gone a whole calendar month without making a three. I think if you're picking and choosing what you're going to give up, let's see if a guy can knock it down. The adjustment is, if he starts making them, I think you have to know the body of work for Ben. The last time he hit a three, he was perfect down to Portland. So I was a bit surprised they didn't kind of tweak that, but it is what it is. It was just a great response from Ben. Nemhard, obviously, another brilliant night. I was looking at this on the season. He's got 310 assists, as we know, 73 turnovers, and 50 steals. So I mean, so effective. I mean, it's a very simple way of looking at it, but 23 times this season he's coughed it up, and you know, not been able to get it back. Like that's just a crazy number to me. I'm not even sure what it means, but I'm looking at like plus 23 net 23 times he's coughed it up,
Yeah.
and he hasn't been able to get it back himself. Right? I mean, just a remarkable season, and I think one that certainly all fans are going to remember for the next couple decades. So I don't know, Jim. It felt like a really good way to end the year for this group. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're playing their best basketball of the year, but certainly they're trending in that direction. Um, I guess when I think about their apex this year, the best I've seen them play was that first half at Kentucky. It's probably not fair to look at that and make that the benchmark.
Yeah.
But the response this week was excellent. It was a good week for battle. 26 minutes a game, average almost 18 points, shooting the ball well, rebounding. I think that's a good bellwether for
He
Caleb.
guarded the other night too.
Yep. But if he's rebounding and active on the glass, I think that's a good indicator.
Yeah.
And look, Hickman kind of quietly the last 5 games, despite not shooting well at Santa Clara. I mean, he's making 48% from three, averaging 16, almost 17 points a game, really efficient from the field, 17 assists, only 2 turnovers. His playmaking has ticked up. Right, it's not as prolific as Ryan is. When Nolan has the ball, he's making good decisions, and he's creating easy shots or easy opportunities for his teammates too. I think having both he and Ryan's always going to be going and producing like that. But if Nolan here down the stretch of the year can provide some of that playmaking, that's a real lift for the group.
He's been rock solid, 90% of the games. He really has. Having a great senior year. Nemhard cracked us up after the game. We were talking to him, and I can't remember what the question was. I think it was about the WCC tournament and how important it is. And he goes, yeah, I to the words to the effect of, I've never really won anything in college. I have no championships, no tournaments, and we're all sitting there thinking, well, you've broke every record and milestone there is for 2 years, and all those things. But he got done, and I was like, yeah, you got to get going, man. You got to get something done. It's like, where you been? But he does not. He gets asked about all these records every post game, and he never. I mean, he's grateful and all that, but it just never. It always turns back to, I want to win games. I want to make a run in the tournament. I think he is kind of driven by, I want to get at least a WCC tournament title, or I want to make a deep run into the NCAAs. I think those weigh on him a lot more than, I've got 310 assists and I'm one of 21 in Division I history. Think about that. One of 21 in Division I history with that many assists. So yeah, I think it's always entertaining with Ryan in the post game. He's very frank, and he's not a credit guy. He distributes even in there to his teammates and kind of the bigger goals that they have. One other thing in that USF game, Zags go 11 of 24, I think, from three. I think that X factor, I'm probably going to write about this, so fair warning, you're going to see it in the paper at some point. The three ball is the X factor for this team. They're going to score inside. They're going to be efficient inside. They're going to make their free throws. I mean, they're going to have a record-setting year at the free throw line, so that's a great sign too. But the three ball, if you look at their losses, not only in the regular season, but throughout the NCAA tournament, and I've got some research done on it, almost every one of the times they lose in the NCAAs, it's because their three ball percentages in the 20s or lower even. It's huge for this team. And I've said it before, with their inside game, I just feel like their perimeter shooting should be higher than it is, just because the quality of looks are pretty good. How much am I overselling that? Can they do this without the three ball? They've done it in a ton of games this year when they've the three ball hasn't been the mode of operation. It's been two balls and 2-pointers and then free throw line. Am I overselling it, or do they have to get something in that 36-38% range from three to do something in the tournaments.
No, they clearly need to shoot the ball well. I think that the challenge is, and I'm hearing you talk about, kind of your angle, and I don't have any argument with it. I'm just trying to think about how to look at the challenges they've had from three. I'm looking at their game by game. I mean, they beat LMU shooting 2 of 18, then after losing to St. Mary's shooting 3 of 17.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so the question is, if you take their quad 1, quad 2 games, the 3-point shooting has, I think, been what's abandoned them more often than not.
Yeah.
You can beat LMU at home if you stink from three because you're at home and you've got more talent. But you can't do that against a quality opponent.
Yeah.
But then I say that and they just went on the road at Santa Clara and shot 27% from three.
Yeah.
So really, to me, it's just the variance, right? If I was to plot these percentages and graph it, it would be like the most intense roller coaster you've ever been on, right? I mean, the high and the low and from game to game, I mean, it's like there's no gradual flow to it, right? I mean, you can be 45% and then 17%. It's just, and that to me is puzzling because they do hit their free throws. They've got skilled guys. And so much of scoring the ball, but particularly shooting the ball is a confidence thing, a belief. And also you have to have a short memory, as a shooter in particular, because you can, Hickman's a good example. You can go 1 of 6 in a game. He can still find other ways to have an impact. A shooter's going to have a game, and then he can follow it up against San Francisco and shoot it really well. And he's shooting 48% over the last 5, right? So you blend that across a prolonged period of time. But when you get to a one and done situation, what you can't have is the entirety of your roster struggle from three, right? That's the idea behind depth and about skill depth is if one guy doesn't have it in any particular way, but in this case, shooting the ball, well, Caliph might have it going if Nolan's struggling, or Ryan's 2 of 3, and Benny's 3 of 5, or whatever it is. It's just what's odd to me, Jim, is it's like an all or nothing proposition for the group. Yeah. It's not as if, and that's where the wild swings come up, I'm not smart enough. I don't think I know I'm not smart enough to like dive into those numbers and produce some sort of conclusive, like, hey, this is what's going on. But I am smart enough to know that they're not going to win in the tournament if they shoot 1 of 17.
Yeah.
Right. They have to get some production from the 3-point line. And so I'll be watching to see where they go as once they get into March Madness. If they're playing in a football stadium, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Right. But if they're playing in an NBA arena, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah.
Those football stadiums, it's just, you've been there. I mean, it's like an endless backdrop. It's very, very difficult to kind of place the rim in your mind's eye because there's just so much behind it. It's like this void versus an arena that's been built for basketball. It's obviously smaller, more intimate. That void behind the backboard just is not the same thing. You can dial it in.
Yeah.
And they just did that, at the Chase Center, which I think is good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one benefit I think of playing there is you got to play in a bigger arena, very similar to what you hopefully will play in a tournament. So I wish you nothing but the best of luck in your article. I don't know what the conclusion is going to be. But if the conclusion is they have better make shots from three in the tournament, they're going to make a run, I would co-sign on that.
Yeah. We'll see where the research leads, but just off my past recollection of their tournaments, it's just almost always been a dry spell on threes in those bigger games. And you're playing better people. Obviously, you're not going to, shoot lights out most of the time when you're playing top seeds and high seeds. But we'll see. Let's go. We'll move on to the WCC tournament. That's next up. The Zags are the 2 seed. They await maybe a rematch with USF. They're the 3 seed, so they have to win a quarterfinal game to advance to face the Zags next Monday in Vegas. I think the Zags got a little bit of a break on the bracket in terms of matchups.
I agree.
On their side, they've got USF, who they've handled twice by double digits. They've got Washington State is on their side. Loyola's on their side as the 6 and the 7. So they've got to win some games to get to Gonzaga. But Zags handled both of those guys, with double-digit wins each time. And on the other side, you've got St. Mary's, obviously, is the champion. They're like Gonzaga. They don't play till next Monday. Then you've got Santa Clara as the 4. We mentioned this last week. I think Santa Clara's roster is very capable, good bigs, good shooters, pretty good physical guards, all those things. And then behind them is Oregon State, same thing, pretty complete first 6, 7 guys, a good guy off the bench. And then Ratai, Parsifala inside. They've got Kings, Minor. They've got some talent, and good guard play and good bigs. So I think Gonzaga matches up better with either San Francisco or WSU or LMU, whoever survives it, than they would against Santa Clara, Oregon State, whoever comes through on that side. But any thoughts on where they sit? And is it almost we talk about every year going down there, hey, this team can do this team could do this. It ends up Gonzaga St. Mary's, 9 out of 10 years or whatever it is.
Right.
You see volume 3, and what do you make of Gonzaga's position with who they might face going into it?
Yeah, I think that's the probability is that it's going to be St. Mary's Gonzaga again one last time, which is certainly what you and I want to see. I think you make a good point. I mean, certainly Santa Clara and Oregon State have shown that they can beat Gonzaga. Oregon State's a bit perplexing to me. They just really struggled on the road this year, and talk about inconsistency. And
Yeah.
I think other than St. Mary's, I think Santa Clara is the one team that matches up the best with Gonzaga with their size, with O'Neal, Tilly, what's the kid's name from Germany? I can't remember his name.
Oh, they got Ensminger.
Ensminger, thank you. Yeah. And then they've got big guards, right?
Yeah, Paul
Brian,
is a big
Carlos
wing.
Stewart's a big bodied guy. I mean, and so they have real depth and they're skilled. They can shoot it. Obviously, we saw that to start the game on Tuesday, not last Tuesday, but they just struggled moving forward in that game. So if that's who's waiting for them in the semifinal, that's going to be a very interesting matchup. They split in the regular season. It's a pretty quick turnaround for both teams, and you'd expect Santa Clara's got to go into this tournament believing that if they have a chance to win it.
Yeah.
So, and that that's the one thing you get in these tournaments, particularly San Francisco and Santa Clara. They know they're not in right now, but they know they're good enough if things roll right that they can win the tournament. And now they're either taking a bid or now it's a 3-bid league. So you're playing against teams that have nothing left to lose. There's a desperation. There's a different level of play hard. And you're going to see the kitchen sink, right, from the staff. It's like, here is every idea we've had. We've had these 10 ideas against the Zags. We've only used 3 of them. We're going to use all 10. And we're going to see what happens. And it's a really, as a player, it's just a ton of fun. I mean, these games are tense. There's a lot on the line, and I think for Gonzaga, there's a lot on the line. You lose in the semifinal, I still think you're in, but now are you a 10 or an 11 seed? I don't know.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, I mean, I think for Ryan and Graham, as spectacular a career as they've had here, they've not won anything yet, right? So this is their last opportunity really to know that they can win something. You got a couple games to win a championship. So if it's Santa Clara, I mean, I'll be kind of sitting at the edge of my seat. I'd just be interested to see round 3 of that. I don't think Santa Clara finished on Tuesday night thinking that they gave Gonzaga their best shot. Gonzaga had a lot to do with that. But a third time around, it's difficult to beat teams twice. And then obviously, if it's St. Mary's at the end, that's going to be it's just going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be volume 3 if it happens. But It's funny you mentioned Zag's shooting 3-point shooting numbers. I think at Santa Clara was it 2 or 3 that they made in that game, something like that. They scored 95 in that game with 2 or 3 threes, and they scored 95 against San Francisco with 11 threes. Their offense is playing very well right now. I have 4 teams that could win the tournament, and I think 3 of them are on the other side of the bracket. I mean,
Interesting.
In my heart, I believe Gonzaga can win it. San Francisco could win it, but I put them behind St. Mary's, Gonzaga, Santa Clara, and Oregon State.
Oh.
I just think if they got on one of those runs, the problem is there's no days off this year. There's no Sunday off that they've had in the past, and they'd have to go bing bing. I think they'd have to win 4 because they've got to play in before. So that's my kind of my wild card. Who do you think can really win this thing?
Well, let's go like first take here. I'm going to start yelling at you and telling you why you're wrong. I would
But you got to yell. You can't just say it calmly.
Are you serious, Jim? What are you watching?
Yell at me. That's what I want.
I'm not a believer in the Beavers at all. I just think they're just too up and down. And to your point about to win that many games,
you're wrong.
We'd be terrible at that.
Yeah, we would.
I think San Francisco, if Beasley's got the week off, I don't know how bad that ankle is.
Yeah.
Again, they're going to have to pitch damn near a perfect game if they play Gonzaga and then St. Mary's, whoever's on the other side of the bracket. I mean, that's a tall ask, right? Certainly. I'm not saying it's probable, but I think if you're talking about who has a chance, it's going to be the 4 top teams in the league, which, obviously includes those 4: Santa Clara, San Francisco, Gonzaga, St. Mary's.
Yeah, the easier rounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
you couldn't be more wrong, Foxy. You could not be more wrong.
All right. Well, but then I'm not allowed to concede that you might be right. So,
well, I think we'll probably both end up, next week saying we knew it was going to be Gonzaga St. Mary's.
Exactly. Exactly.
Major awards for the conference have come out either later this week or right before the tournament, but I got to believe with how the regular season went, I think the Gales win the league by 3 games.
Yep.
Impressive. I think they only lost 4 all year, counting non-conference.
Yep.
I got to believe, not saying this is how I would vote, but I would got to believe Marciulionis will probably be MVP again. Randy Bennett, I think, was almost a shoe-in for coach. Although I will say, Chris Gerlison,
I was just going to say,
is done a heck of a job there. He's got him right on the border of the breakthrough. But the way he handles a post-game press conference, he is all first-team WCC. He answers your questions. He's very detailed. He's just he's a champ in there, and comes by and introduces himself, shakes hands with people in the audience because they had a lot bigger media presence at the game the other night. Very impressive. But Randy's going to probably win that Coach of the Year hands down. I got to believe Saxon will be the Defender of the Year because when you win the league, you get the spoils, and that's, I think, where that'll go. I don't know beyond that. There's a lot of candidates for newcomers and six-mans and those kind of things. But I think those 3 are probably going to be a Gales sweep. I think Nemhard's season more than merits. This is a little bit like last year. I mean, Gonzaga kind of had Graham and Nemhard, but they didn't win the league. So I think that tilts the voting correctly, But boy, it'd be hard to vote against Ryan Nemhard for Player of the Year after just kind of a once in a generation season passing the ball. What do you think?
Yeah, what's interesting is I think Ryan. I agree with how those major awards are probably going to go. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the league that would have usurped Saxton as far as the defender. He won it last year. I don't think anyone did. No one did anything to take it from him. Marciulionis is so critical to what they do, and obviously it's the best season anyone's had in the league in 25 years since Mark's been there. I mean, to win it by 3 games, 17-1. I mean, this is
Impressive.
what you look for from Gonzaga. So, but what's so interesting is from a national perspective, it's Ryan who's going to get all the awards and be recognized, and Marciulionis isn't, which is just an interesting kind of dichotomy, I suppose. But nonetheless, I would expect Graham and Ryan are locks for that first team. And maybe you see Nolan on the second team. I think he was finished there last year. I don't know if we'll see 3 Zags on the first team.
Yeah.
Because I think it's 10 on the first team and 5
It
on the
is.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for why we don't do first, second, and third team, I don't know. It's it's like sitting right there in front of them.
No, we've talked about that before. We don't get
make a hard choice. I don't understand. So yeah, I think Gonzaga will have 2, maybe 3 on the All League, and St. Mary's will probably have the same. And Malik Thomas was Player of the Week. It felt like every other week there for a while, so he'll be first team. And I would think Marcus Williams as well. And I think the bottom half of the league, I'm not sure you'll see anybody off of Pacific, WSU, and those
No,
teams.
you're probably going to see Santa Clara is going to have some representation, obviously.
100%. Yep, 100%. I think, and Oregon State too. They have a couple guys that.
Ratai
really,
is going to be on there. Yeah, Ratai is definitely. Last one, Foxy. Second year in a row, Gonzaga has played USF at the Chase Center. I think both years USF had the better of the crowd, probably 60-40, 65-35, but plenty of Zag fans there. Instead of playing at the Hilltop, and I love War Memorial. I'm pretty sure you do. The history there is incredible. But it seats about 3,500 or maybe even less. Very cozy, very loud. And Zag fans find their way in there too. Don't get me wrong. There'll be a sizable number when they do play there. But is USF crazy for playing Gonzaga at the Chase? This is 2 years in a row where it was a very big game for both teams. And I don't know. I know they're probably making a wise financial move, but I'm not sure it's the best move for them, getting the breakthrough win, improving their resume, all those things, getting the second seed this year. Where do you fall on that? Do you think they're making a mistake, or do you think they're doing what they kind of need to for the balance the books, and then there's prestige with playing in an NBA building too?
I don't think there's any prestige playing at the Chase Center for a college basketball game. I'm sorry. It's about money. That's fine. That's plenty good. That's a good enough reason to do that. They make a good amount of money having that game there, and it's guaranteed income. Versus the argument that I would make would just require a leap of faith, which is, well, our chances of knocking off Gonzaga there's a material improvement, I think, in that opportunity at home.
Yeah.
And you win that game on Saturday night. I'm not sure. I don't think, because of where Gonzaga is sitting right now in the seed line, that you're locking yourself into being a tournament team, but it's a massive win on your home floor that not only does improve your resume, but I think builds a lot of confidence. And
you got St. Mary's and Gonzaga in the same year,
right? And if you get to the tournament, and now you finish second in the league too, by the way, and if you make the NCAA tournament, there's a whole lot more money there too. So from a basketball perspective, and I think I want to win the game perspective, playing the Chase Center doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But that's not the world we live in. I'm not going to argue or disparage an athletic department and an AD making a decision based on that, because this is the era we live in now.
Yeah.
Is we've got to be competitive in NIL, and none of it matters if we can't get players. Okay, so I totally understand the logic behind it. As a fan, I like to play on my home floor, and it is a great place to play. It is. It's like the most historical high school sized gym in the country. It's more than that. I'm being a bit facetious to make a point, but you walk in, there's Gonzaga. You walk in, your tickets getting scanned, and the concessions are dialed. It feels very like mom and pop there, and it's just a different experience. You're on wood bleachers,
the plaques.
Yeah, it's
Bill
just.
Russell,
The players have to walk through people to get to the locker room. Literally, you've got guys going to take a leak during the warm up, and there's like a mob of people trying to get into the gym, and you see them like weaving through in their game jersey. It's awesome, it's kind of just a throwback to an era that is obviously dying off quickly. So yeah, I'm inclined to say I would have loved this, and I went to the last game that they played there, and it was unbelievable. So yeah, if I ever get a call from anybody in San Francisco, I'll make my pitch and I'll lose it, but I'll still make it.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the circumstances of their athletic department and all that, but I do know I watched covered Gonzaga losing 3 straight years at War Memorial. 3 straight, I think 10, 11, and 12, I want to say. 12's the last time San Francisco beat Gonzaga, 32 games ago. So I covered all 3 of those games down there.
You've been doing this a while.
I am an aged person, I'm telling you. Well, Foxy, that's going to do it. I think this went well. I spilled my water the first 10 seconds, but we rallied hard after that. I thought we got some things done. We always have fun doing it. I appreciate Jesse Tinsley pinch hitting for us. Good luck trying to make us look good there, Jess, but we appreciate it very much. I'll post this on the spokesman.com site. It should be on YouTube, on Apple, on all the spots you get your podcast, Spotify, I think, as well. So just look up Zags Basketball Insiders Podcast. We'll be back with you next Monday. We'll know who the Zags are playing in the semis, and we'll preview that and some other topics as well. Probably some awards discussions from the WCC, all tournament stuff, or all league stuff. So come back in a week. Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you in a week.